All right, we got a new video here. Let me turn this down just a little bit. Okay. So we got a new video here. AMD's making some moves this morning, or just today. Big ass green candle here. So we're gonna take a look at AMD. I think that the up move we've been waiting on started, and I would say that it officially started last Wednesday, which would be. Let's look at the candle here. Where is the 19th? So if we zoom in a little bit here, we've got the 19th here. Would be like the official start of when something new happened. We can look at it closer here. So we'll look here starting back in October after earnings, and then it fell. It fell after earnings, and it's been falling ever since. If we draw a line and we just do something through the top of here, roughly, then this has definitively broken the trend, and that is today. So let me just paint that a different color so that it's a little more obvious. Oh, something bright that'll show up. Yeah, it kind of blends in. It's hard to see, but obviously, if this is the line over the top that we were fighting against, it like definitively broke above that this morning. So now we have like most definitely changed what was going on in the previous 5 months now. Has like most definitely saw a change this morning with this big ass candle right here. So it is worth noting and saying that we have broken the trend and we should start traveling upwards. I do believe that this gap that we have, if I can zoom in a little bit, the gap up this morning where it just exploded upwards does need to get filled. So I would see this. I would see this roll over at some point, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. But in the next couple of days, this should roll over and come all the way back to about 107. But I would imagine this would fill the gap, touch the line, and then climb back up, and then maybe start doing a stair step. The reverse of what we're seeing here. We'll start seeing the reverse of it traveling out the other way. So we'll see it go up and then come back down and up more and then down and then up a little more and then down and then up and then down, but continue to travel upwards, similar to this in the reverse direction. Um, so that is a definitive breakout. If we look back here, this would have been 318, which I think was last Wednesday was the 19th. Relative strength, we haven't broken back above the 50 to establish real strength in the stock since all the way back in October here on the big drop. So now we've also officially broken through last Wednesday on gaining strength, where this says we're not strong yet, we're weak, and we're weak, and we're weak, and we're weak. And even here, where it's extremely weak, and it was extremely weak at 118. Now it's extremely weak, and it was extremely weak at 95. So it's just the relative weakness was even weaker, where it says I am extraordinarily weak here, but then when I'm extraordinarily weak here, I'm even lower in price. So now it has to build that strength back up. It's kind of like working out, where it's going to have to work its way back up again. So what it's going to take for this to get to extreme strength might only be, say, 120. But in order to get to 160, it's going to have to max out, get strong, then relax a little bit, and then show its strength again and go up higher. But we are above the 50, which is just the halfway point. So we're above 50, and we should start building strength. On the uh, MACD, on the moving averages here, we're about to cross over zero line as well. Where back here in October, obviously we came under, and it's been traveling. The stock has been traveling downwards while it had a below zero moving average, and so now We can see here we're moving back up to 0. It's been gathering strength, it's been gathering steam, and now it's going to start moving above the 0, which kind of says it should continue to gain power and go upwards. We'll see like an upwards move here, it back in time. We see an upwards move here back in time, and now we'll see an upwards move here through this time. So, everything on AMD looks good, and we should start climbing now. This would realistically be the end of being able to buy on Fridays. There might be 1 or 2 more weeks, but earnings is also coming up. So I would see it want to start climbing heading into earnings. So we have about 4 weeks. 4 weeks until roughly May 6th, because that date's not accurate. They will announce their official earnings date, but the expectation is that it'll be around May 6th, but it might be like the 8th or the 4th or somewhere in there. They'll announce it and they'll let us know. But roughly 4 more weeks. If it continues to climb and continues to push, then it's less Fridays that we'll have time to get into it. But we had, I believe it's 24 weeks since October. If from here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1 and 2. So we've had 22 weeks. There might be 1 or 2 more weeks in it, and then it'll have moved up so high that we don't want to be buying anymore. We just want to then ride it out. As far as riding it out goes, there is a lot to clean up above. We're gonna, we targeted that 110 today. That was the newest move we wanted to achieve. We're gonna want to get up into like 130, 132, but in the meat of here is about 130, and then in the meat of here is about 150. So our first moves were 110. Then we're going to want to see 130, and then we're going to see 150. And we also, not that we want to see it, but it's realistic that we will see it, that it'll come up, clean up this 110, then come down, clean up the gap fill, then push up higher, likely leave something behind, but because it left something behind, we want to clean it up. So we want to roll over and clean that up, which will give us another down move. But we want a nice clean chart. The opposite of this, where this discrepancy right here of the blue over the red, this was left open. We don't want to leave anything open on our way upwards. Where here they left this open, which just tells us the stock is going to move up at some point, and it will move up and try to clean this out. This is a discrepancy between where the moving averages push out far beyond what is realistically acceptable statistically, given where the price was at. And so they left this, and they left this, and then they had previously left this just going back like a week or so ago. So this needed to be cleaned up, and that needed to be cleaned up, and this needs to be cleaned up. We don't want to leave anything like this behind as we move up, so we want them to clean it. We want the price action to come and fill this type of stuff out on our way up, so that there's nothing threatening below. Right now, what threatens us below is this gap fill. On a smaller time frame, we can look for any kind of like price discrepancies, and it's right there. You can see that the blue has broken through the green here, that we pushed so hard this morning, it didn't get to clean this up. And so when it comes for that gap fill, we're going to want to see this clean up all the way down to about 102. It doesn't have to go to 102, but we want to at least break through 104. So when and see how it's severely overbought, but it gained strength here. It gained strength, then it relaxed a little, then it showed us what is strong again, but what was strong was significantly stronger than it's maxed out before. And then where it maxed out again this morning is substantially stronger than where it was strong before and where it was strong before. And then you can see where it was weak. It was weak here, and it was weak here. Where is it? Here, but then the next weakness started to become less weak. It was still maxed out on its weakness. Relative strength index, it's strong up here and it's weak down here. And the amount of weakness that it was able to drive the price down it didn't have as much strength on the push down part, but it's gaining more power towards the upside. So you can see it here and here and here. And we're going to see this relax. And when it relaxes, we're going to want it to fill that gap that we saw on the daily. And we're going to want to see it at least come and clean out this like 105. At least get below 105 somewhere. 104, 104.50 or so. So we do want to see this come all the way down to 104. And just get a really nice cleanup here. And then whatever else develops out of it. We're clean here. It broke out, right here on the blue line, but it's clean. This got cleaned up by this move right here. If I zoom into it, you can see it. Let me make that bigger. So it left this behind, and it says, hey, we want to clean that up. And so then it immediately did it the next day. This is the type of strength we want to see going forward, is that any remnants that it left behind, like this, it immediately cleans it up. This, it doesn't leave it as a remnant, it cleans it up. It left it as a remnant overnight, but then it cleaned it up first thing the next morning. So then I would see this come up and this come over, and that's at about 109. So first thing tomorrow morning, I would like to see this drop down to at least 109. So I wouldn't be alarmed or concerned when you see this thing go red tomorrow, but it's very likely that AMD goes red tomorrow, hits 109, and we would like to see it at least do the gap fill. But that is, up 741 today, and it just gapped and disappeared. That this minus 741 is about 105, all the way down to the close yesterday. So we want to see this come down, fill that 105 gap, fill that leftover, kind of bugged out there for a second. Clean up this, clean up all of this, and then we can power forward. So look for it to at least come down to 109 tomorrow, which is getting a little into the nitty gritty of smaller time frames, which isn't really what I talk about that much. But the expectation for tomorrow, even when this pops out, is going to be 110, or not 110, 110, and that's on like a 30-minute time frame. But everything points down right now, but it points down in a good way. It points down as cleanup, where on the 30-minute chart it wants to clean up to 110. On the 1 hour chart it wants to clean up to 109. On the 4 hour time frame it wants to clean up to 105, and on the daily it wants to clean up to probably 105, 107. 107 for the gap fill on the daily. So everything says that tomorrow it's going to want to roll over and do some cleanup work. Then when we clean this up, this gap got filled previously, but this gap is open as well. So we'll do something like roll over, clean up 105, then move back up above 110. Look for this gap fill here above 121 up to 122, and then want to clean this up in the I think that was 130 I had said previously, but the minimum on it's going to be like 125, but then we immediately get into this gap that it wants to clean up, and that gap goes up to 127 roughly, which will take us into the 130s, and then the gap up here after earnings at 138, and then the larger gap. It's just gaps and gaps, and it's a complete mess above of things to shoot for. We don't want to leave a mess like that underneath, so hopefully tomorrow it rolls over, cleans that up, bounces off of here, does that 105 move, and starts climbing. So for the foreseeable future, it should be a climbing type of look we're looking at. So we should see this come over and bounce and do like similar to this, really. Similar to this, but projected out going forward all the way into earnings, where this isn't going to be accurate in any way. There we go. So if I take this and I say, let's just climb that, and I'm going to extend it out to the right. So let's just climb that. Let's just give me a bigger time frame. There we go. So if we're gonna take this climb right here, and we're gonna come over, we're gonna bounce off of this, then we're gonna push higher, and we're gonna come down, we're gonna bounce off of it and push higher, and bounce off of it and push higher, and bounce off of it and push higher, all the way into earnings. And into earnings, that would take us to about 140. So we should be looking at AMD 140 roughly around earnings time. Now I did just make that number up, but that is just for example purposes to watch it just bounce and then bounce up and then bounce off of it and climb back up, and we should just see it stair step its way all the way into earnings here. Um, and that's really just built off of this breakout we had this morning. Let me get rid of that because I don't actually like that line. I don't want to clear the drawing set. I just want to remove that single drawing. There we go. And I mean that one can stay. That one's beneficial. So yeah, I mean that's the look at AMD. Is we'll be looking at about 140 come earnings time, and then a much larger expectation towards the upside. If we go to a 3-year 1-week chart, we're looking to return all the way up to here, which is 160 roughly, and then make one of these big moves up here up to, I mean, where will we be at earnings? 203. So at earnings, on a like a large momentum push, we're going to want to find 200, which is, if we just draw that across, it's basically all-time highs for AMD. So if I look at AMDL, and it doesn't go back that far, which is just okay. We'll be looking at like 23.75. So call it $23. That's the move we'll be looking for. Is that we'll be taking it from the current 637 up to about $24. So all the accumulation we had through all of those weeks, and then we'll carry that up into earnings. 140 should be roughly the October price here, which is $14. So at a minimum, we'll be looking for $14, where we started buying under 12. This mark here. So everything we bought under 12, and then we'll be looking at minimum to get 14 back out of it with a like a major upside of $24. So I mean that's what AMD looks like right now. And given that it's building up and it's showing some real strength, even compared to the market, where obviously AMD's been falling down for a long time, and this is something to note, is that it has been falling down for a long time, but specifically right here, it didn't fall down. It may not look like much during this month from February until March. This doesn't look that different from the entire rest of the chart, but what is significantly different is what the entire rest of the market did, where the entire rest of the market was plummeting. And what AMD basically said was, I've already plummeted enough. And it just held up. It just sat right here. It sat very low. I'm not saying this price is great. It's great for buying, but for a representation of how the stock feels, it just pinned itself to 100 and said, I won't go any lower than 100. Yes, it hit 94, but, relative plus or minus $5. But compared to the rest of the market, the SPY and the NASDAQ, it refused to break down and follow. It had said, over the 5 months that it was just falling, when it hit this section, it said, I cannot go any lower, which really confirmed the bottom. That's really what that meant, was that it said, I can't go any lower. The rest of the market is finally starting to roll over, and instead of getting dragged down with them, where it could have been much worse, instead of getting dragged down with them, it said, I'm already so low. I've already been beat up. I'm already too low at this point. I cannot go any lower. And that was real confirmation last Wednesday, where it said, I can't go any lower, and in fact, I need to start building up strength. So compared to the rest of the market, AMD is looking really good. There is some other nice buys in here. There is some other stuff to look at, but I think right now, given that we're so far into AMD, it's been 5 months long, we're looking at exiting here on earnings at around 200, or selling call options to really maximize the amount of value we get out of it. Either way, our main focus has been on AMD. That if you're not really ready or willing to get into something like Microsoft or Amazon, I'm not sure why this is so slow. If you're not ready to get into something like Microsoft, Tesla had really come down. Google, Amazon. If you're not quite ready for that yet, it's fine because we can carry this all the way into earnings. We can stay with this single AMD play, get out of it here at earnings, or continue to carry it to 200, or hold on to it and start selling call options. If you've acquired enough of that, then it's something I can go over at that time. But uh, yeah, you just stay with AMD, and then we'll make decisions in 4 or 5 weeks when it comes to earning times and really see how this is playing out and figure out what our next move is. And then if our next move is to exit out of it, then you'll free up some cash and you can get into Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Tesla, depending on what the market looks like at that time. But currently, the whole market looks buyable. It's given that the triple Qs is down into a buyable section and the SPY is down into a buyable section. It effectively means that everything, because this is the market, this is everything, and the triple Qs is the tech sector. It basically means, regardless of which one you throw on the screen, they're all buyable now. But we are in AMD. So you can just carry out the AMD. We're getting a big 3-week crossover here. I don't typically look at this except for to gain like a larger perspective, but I mean, even here we're getting a crossover, and on a weekly chart, that's huge. Even the crossover here that basically signaled that it's going to be going down for some time, because it takes a long time to move a weekly chart. Once this crosses over, it's going to take a long time to move a weekly chart. So if this crosses over and says I am heading upwards, then this entire stock is going to say I am heading upwards. And that's where I would start pulling out like the 200 number. I would say it wants to return to AMD 200, somewhere up here, 180, 200, somewhere in that region. So I mean, that's the AMD plan. Earnings as of now, May the 6th. So we'll just continue with AMD, hold on to that date, and we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. You can count that out real quick. We've got all of this week. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's way more than I thought. Or am I just bad at counting? It says it wants to be here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 more weeks. I'm just terrible at counting. So 6 more weeks. You got 6 more weeks, and then we will see what it looks like at earnings. So yeah, I mean, that'll be it.